This one here is a little bit less realistic currently at the present time. But now, and this isn't specifically an idea for I wouldn't really apply to a inner city transit system. It would be more, a national transit system. But there is a concept for a way to move people around called a VAC train, or a vacuum tube maglev train. Okay. Now, a maglev train is a train that hovers. It's got a track, and the bottom of the train is magnetized, and it hovers, and it uses alternating sections of the track, the current, to keep the train moving forward. It's a really interesting technology, mainly because it removes one of the greatest inefficiencies to trains, or to any vehicle really, which is friction, which is moving parts rubbing against each other, and the heat that's generated and all that. A lot of energy is lost to that. And just tires on roads and whatnot. It's one of the reasons that train tracks are a much more efficient way to move things than tire on road, because the friction between steel on steel is very low. If you ever try and stop a train, it takes a long time. You can't just slam on the brakes with those things. So now we have that. Now the idea is you remove the friction between the rail and the track. You've eliminated that element of friction. That's going to slow you down. Now the only other serious factor here is going to be air resistance, right? Because once you get up, the higher you go, the more resistance there is to the air around you, to the point where, if you're going really, really, really fast, it's like, hitting a brick wall. So the idea behind a VAC train is you build a tunnel, you create a vacuum within that tunnel, you build a maglev train within that tunnel. So now you've removed air resistance and you've removed track resistance. What this means is that you can continuously speed up your train to an absolute ridiculous degree. You could speed up your train to I've seen, some physicists estimate that this kind of technology could get you moving anywhere between 5,000 and 10,000 kilometers an hour at max speed. So, you're talking from Nova Scotia to Vancouver in a couple hours. And now let's be very clear about this. This would be an absolutely ridiculously large undertaking. This would not be a small project by any stretch of the imagination. Building a tunnel from the length of a country would just require absolutely ridiculous amount of money. And then building a maglev train inside that tunnel would also require a lot of money. To build such a track, it would require a lot of money. You'd be looking at roughly about $100 million per kilometer of track, which is a lot of money. You can basically arrive to that number by combining the cost to build a maglev track with the cost to build a subway tunnel, which is, this idea is essentially just combining the two concepts and then sucking the air out of it and making them go fast. So, okay, $100 million might sound like a huge amount of money. It's true. But to put that in perspective, the United States waged a war against Iraq, which estimates drop at around $3 to $4 trillion is what the United States spent on Iraq. A lot of money. if that money had have been spent on designing and building an infrastructure for a vac tubes train, you could connect you could connect the capital city of every state in the United States to a track like this, and Americans would now have the ability to travel anywhere within their own country in less than a couple hours, and for probably, you know, a lot less money than, you know, a gas guzzling jet, because, you know, with efficiency comes money savings. It's going to use a lot less energy to move a train in a vacuum tube on a maglev than it is to get a airplane up to flying height and land it with fossil fuels. So that's what you could have had for the cost of the Iraq War. A war that most people have basically forgotten the financial impact of already. So to suggest that accomplishing this isn't possible, it's totally possible. It's just a big deal.